"No one wants to hire me as a cook," she said, until Cowboy whispered, "Pick your things and come." Maria had always loved cooking. Ever since she was a little girl, she would spend hours in the kitchen helping her mother chop vegetables, stir sauces, and taste everything she made. The smells, the colors, the sounds of sizzling pans, everything about the kitchen felt like magic to her. She dreamed of becoming a great cook one day, of having people enjoy the meals she made with care and love. She imagined running her own restaurant, where every dish told a story, where her passion for food could touch other people's lives. But life had not been easy for Maria. After finishing school, she tried to get a job in restaurants. She started with small diners, places where the pay was low and the work was hard, but she was happy just to be cooking. She worked long hours, often starting before the sun came up and leaving after everyone else had gone home. She learned everything the hard way: how to prepare food fast without losing its taste, how to handle customers who were rude or impatient, and how to manage a small kitchen with limited ingredients. Even though she worked hard and gave her best, Maria faced constant rejection when she tried to find something bigger, something more permanent. She went to dozens of interviews, wearing her cleanest clothes and carrying her resume carefully printed on fresh paper. She tried to smile and stay confident, even when her hands shook or her stomach felt tight with nerves. But time and time again, the answer was the same: "We're sorry, we've chosen someone else." Or, "We'll keep your resume on file." She told herself that maybe she just needed more experience, or that the right opportunity hadn't come yet. She reminded herself of all the times she had succeeded, like the time she cooked a huge family meal for her aunt's birthday, and everyone said it was the best they had ever eaten, or when a customer at a small diner told her, "You have a real gift." But those little victories didn't last long in her memory, because the rejections were heavier, louder, and impossible to ignore. Her friends and family tried to encourage her. Her mother would say, "Maria, don't give up. You're talented. Someone will see it soon." Her best friend, Layla, would call her almost every day with new ideas. "Have you tried that new restaurant downtown? Maybe they're hiring. Why don't you start a catering business from home? Your cooking is amazing. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Maria appreciated their support, but it didn't stop the anxiety that grew inside her. She started doubting herself more and more. She began to notice the little signs of her growing frustration. The pile of unpaid bills on her kitchen table seemed to grow taller each week. Her small apartment, which used to feel cozy, now felt cramped and suffocating. Sometimes she would stand by the window and watch people walk down the street, thinking about how easily they seemed to find jobs, friends, and opportunities, while she was stuck in the same place, trying harder than ever. Cooking, which had once been her joy, started to feel like a burden. She would make meals for herself in silence, tasting them and thinking, "No one will ever pay me for this. No one will ever care." She began talking to herself, quietly, almost in a whisper. "No one wants to hire me as a cook." Saying it out loud made it feel real, and yet she didn't know how to stop the words from escaping her lips. It became a kind of mantra, repeated every day in her kitchen, on her walks, and sometimes even in her dreams. Maria's days became a mix of hope and disappointment. Some mornings she would wake up determined, convincing herself that today would be the day she got a call or found a new opportunity. She would spend hours perfecting recipes, writing down ideas, imagining a life where her talent was recognized and appreciated. But more often than not, the day ended with silence or rejection. Every no felt like a small wound, and over time those wounds piled up until she could barely remember what it felt like to believe in herself completely. She also began to notice the way people looked at her. At interviews, she would see the polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. At the diners she worked at, she felt invisible behind the counter, like her efforts were taken for granted. Even when someone complimented her food, it often came with an almost apologetic tone, as if they didn't truly believe she had talent. Maria wanted to shout, to show everyone that she could do more than just cook a decent meal, that she could create something unforgettable. But the words stayed locked in her chest. To cope, Maria started writing in a small notebook. She wrote down recipes, but also her thoughts, her fears, and her dreams. On some pages, she wrote detailed instructions for sauces and desserts. On others, she wrote sentences like, "I want someone to see me for who I am, not just what I can make." The notebook became her secret companion, a place where her passion still burned brightly, even when the world seemed to ignore it. One evening, after another long day of rejection letters and fruitless job applications, Maria sat at her tiny kitchen table, staring at the stovetop and the empty pan she had just cleaned. She felt tired in a way that went beyond her body. Her heart felt heavy, and her mind spun with worry. She thought about giving up, about finding some other work, even if it meant leaving cooking behind. But a small voice inside her whispered, "I can't. I won't." It was faint, but it was there, reminding her of every meal she had ever made with care, every smile she had ever seen when someone tasted her food, every dream she had held since childhood. That night, Maria went to bed with the notebook by her pillow, her mind filled with questions. Would she ever get the chance she deserved? Was there some place in the world that would recognize her talent? She didn't know the answers, but she refused to stop dreaming. Somewhere out there, she felt there had to be someone who would see her not just as a cook, but as a person who loved what she did. Someone who would give her the chance to shine. As she drifted to sleep, Maria didn't realize that her life was about to change in ways she had never expected. The chance meeting that would shift her path forever was closer than she imagined. But for now, she just held on to her hope, fragile and flickering, like a candle in the dark waiting for someone or something to notice. The next morning, Maria woke up feeling the same weight she had felt for weeks, but also a small flicker of hope she didn't quite understand. She decided to take a walk to clear her mind and think about what she could do next. The streets were quiet, the air fresh with the scent of morning dew and baked bread from the nearby bakery. As she walked, she noticed people moving with purpose, some rushing to work, others chatting with friends. She couldn't help but feel a little out of place, like she was stuck in a story where everyone else had a chapter written for them, and she had no idea what hers would say. Eventually, her steps took her to the small farmer's market at the edge of town. It was a place she had visited occasionally, mostly to buy fresh vegetables or spices she couldn't find in the grocery store. Today, something made her stop and linger. The market was alive with color and sound, baskets overflowing with tomatoes, peppers, and fruits, the smell of fresh bread mingling with herbs, the chatter of people negotiating prices, and the laughter of children running between stalls. Maria felt drawn to it, as if the market itself were calling her. She wandered past the different stalls, looking at the produce, touching the fruits gently, imagining the meals she could make. Then she saw a small crowd gathered around a man who was demonstrating some cooking techniques. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and wore a wide-brimmed hat that shaded his face. People called him Cowboy, though Maria noticed there was something unusual about him. He didn't speak loudly or demand attention like others might. Instead, he moved with calm confidence, quietly explaining what he was doing and letting people watch and learn. Maria watched from a distance, her curiosity growing. There was something in the way he worked that reminded her of the joy she felt when she cooked. Every movement was precise, yet effortless. The way he handled the ingredients made them look special. Even ordinary vegetables seemed to shine under his hands. She felt a sudden surge of inspiration. Maybe today would be different. After a few minutes, she noticed that he was packing up his things, preparing to leave. Something inside her pushed her forward. She walked over, trying to appear casual, but her heart was racing. "Excuse me," she said softly, unsure if he would even respond. I noticed how you work with food. It's amazing." He looked up, and Maria felt a strange calm wash over her. His eyes were kind and focused, as if he were seeing her in a way no one else had. "Thank you," he said simply. "Do you cook?" Maria hesitated for a moment, feeling a mixture of pride and fear. She didn't know why she was telling a stranger, but somehow it felt right. "Yes," she said finally. "I've been trying to make it as a cook for a long time, but it's been hard. No one seems to want to hire me." She looked down, embarrassed. I just, He listened quietly, not interrupting or judging. There was a gentle patience in his silence, as if he truly wanted to understand her. Finally, he nodded. "I see," he said. "It sounds like you've been working hard and not getting the recognition you deserve." That can be frustrating. Maria felt a lump in her throat. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Most people either ignored her, judged her, or gave polite but empty advice. But this man, he seemed to notice her, to really see her. For a moment, she almost forgot where she was. The noise of the market fading around her. They started talking. Maria told him about her experience in diners, catering, and small restaurants. She spoke about the hours she had spent perfecting sauces, learning techniques, and dreaming of a place where her talent could be appreciated. Cowboy asked questions, gently, thoughtfully, and she realized he was genuinely interested in her story. He asked about her favorite recipes, the ingredients she loved working with, and the dishes she was most proud of. As she spoke, Maria felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Excitement. Not the anxious kind, but a quiet, steady excitement that came from sharing her passion with someone who understood it. For the first time in months, she felt heard. She laughed at small mistakes in her past, and he smiled in a way that encouraged her, never making her feel small or unimportant. After a while, he reached into his bag and handed her a small notebook. "I keep notes like this," he said. "Ideas, recipes, thoughts. It helps me remember the things I want to try. Maybe it will help you too." Maria accepted it, surprised and grateful. She flipped through the pages and saw detailed sketches, ingredients, and instructions. It was simple, practical, and full of care. "Thank you," she said. "This means a lot." He nodded again. Sometimes all a cook needs is someone to notice their work. The right opportunity doesn't always come through a job listing or an interview. Sometimes it comes from someone who sees the heart behind the food. The idea was almost too simple, but it struck her deeply. She had been searching for opportunities everywhere. Applications, interviews, networking. But maybe the answer was someone recognizing her talent when she least expected it. Maybe that someone was standing right in front of her. Cowboy asked her to stay a little longer and help him prepare a small dish for the market's visitors. Maria hesitated, unsure if she should, but then nodded. She rolled up her sleeves, took out ingredients from her bag, and started working beside him. The way they moved together in the small space felt natural, like a dance they had practiced without realizing it. He gave her guidance when needed, but mostly he let her work freely. The dish came together beautifully, and when the first customers tasted it, they smiled, complimenting the flavors. Maria felt a wave of pride wash over her. After the market ended, Cowboy packed up and started walking away. Maria felt a sudden pang of worry. Would this be the end? She didn't want this moment to disappear before it had even begun. He noticed her hesitation and turned back. "You have talent," he said. "Don't let it go unnoticed. If you ever want to cook with purpose, not just for survival, I can give you a chance, but it's up to you to decide if you're ready." Maria felt a strange mix of fear and hope. She wanted to trust him, but she had been disappointed too many times before. I don't know if I'm ready," she admitted honestly. "That's okay," he replied. "You'll know when you are. Just remember, the opportunity isn't always about a fancy title or a big restaurant. Sometimes it's about the right place, the right time, and the right person who believes in you." For the next few days, Maria couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. She replayed the conversation in her mind, remembering the calm way he had listened, the gentle encouragement in his eyes, and the excitement she had felt while cooking alongside him. She felt a growing sense of possibility, a spark she hadn't felt in months. Maybe this was the start of something new. Maybe this was the chance she had been waiting for all along. She decided to visit the market again, hoping to learn more, practice her skills, and maybe see Cowboy. Each time she returned, she worked hard, experimented with new ingredients, and watched people's reactions. Slowly, she began to regain the confidence that had been buried under months of doubt. She remembered why she had started cooking in the first place: the joy of creating, the happiness her food could bring to others, and the feeling that she could make a difference, even with something as simple as a meal. And then, one morning, as the sun rose over the town, Cowboy approached her quietly. "Are you ready?" he asked. Maria looked at him, her heart pounding. She didn't know what he meant, but somehow she felt that whatever was coming, it was important. She nodded slowly, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. That moment marked the beginning of a turning point in her life. It was a small step, almost invisible to anyone else, but for Maria it carried the weight of months of struggle, hope, and dreams. She realized that sometimes life didn't hand out opportunities in the ways we expected. Sometimes it required patience, courage, and the willingness to step forward when someone extended a hand. Maria didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to face it. She had been struggling alone for so long, but now she felt that she wasn't invisible anymore. Someone had noticed her, believed in her, and offered her a chance to shine. And with that small, quiet hope in her heart, Maria felt that anything was possible. Maria felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she followed Cowboy to the edge of the farmer's market. The sunlight was bright, but it didn't make the tight knot of anticipation in her stomach any smaller. She had no idea what to expect, but somehow she trusted him. There was something in the way he moved, quiet but confident, that made her feel safe. For months she had felt invisible, like her talent would never be noticed. And now, with one simple gesture, someone was offering her a chance. They walked along a small dirt path that led to the outskirts of the town. The air smelled of fresh grass and warm soil. Birds chirped softly, and a gentle breeze brushed Maria's hair. It was peaceful, almost magical, in a way that contrasted with the noisy markets and crowded streets she had become used to. The path ended at a large ranch. Wide fields stretched out as far as she could see, dotted with horses, cows, and wooden barns. The sight made her gasp. It was bigger than she had imagined, a place where she could feel free, where her work might finally have meaning. Cowboy stopped near the entrance of a large barn. "This is where I host most of the events," he said quietly. "Sometimes we have local gatherings, seasonal festivals, or small celebrations. I need someone who can manage the kitchen, prepare meals, and make sure everything tastes as good as it looks. I think you can do it." Maria's heart raced. She wanted to speak, but her throat felt tight. After so many months of rejection, it almost didn't seem real. "Are you serious?" she asked finally, her voice trembling. He nodded, meeting her eyes. "Yes, pick your things and come. You'll start as soon as you're ready." Maria felt a rush of emotions she couldn't quite name. Joy, relief, disbelief, and fear all mixed together. She thought of her small apartment, the empty walls, the unpaid bills, and the loneliness that had weighed on her for months. And now, suddenly, there was an opportunity, one that could change everything. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine a future where her cooking mattered, a place where she could create meals for people who truly appreciated them, where her talent would be seen and respected. She thought about all the recipes she had perfected, the flavors she had discovered, and the joy she had once felt in the kitchen. Maybe all of that hard work wasn't wasted. Maybe this was the moment it had been leading to. She nodded slowly, determination building inside her. "Okay," she said. "I'm ready." Cowboy gave a small smile, one that didn't need words. It was full of reassurance and quiet encouragement. "Good. You'll see that this place is different. It's not about fancy titles or big restaurants. It's about creating something real, something people remember." Over the next few days, Maria packed her things. She gathered her favorite knives, her old but reliable cooking utensils, and a few personal items that made her feel at home. Each item she packed reminded her of her journey, the late nights in the kitchen, the hours of practice, the moments of doubt. It was like packing her past and taking it with her, ready to be transformed into something new. When she arrived at the ranch for the first time, she was greeted by the warm smell of fresh bread and herbs, the sounds of animals moving quietly in the distance, and the open sky stretching endlessly above. It was a place of calm and opportunity, far removed from the cramped spaces and crowded kitchens she had been used to. And she felt a strange combination of nerves and excitement as she stepped inside the barn, which had been converted into a functional kitchen for the events. Cowboy introduced her to the small team of helpers who would work with her. They were friendly and eager to learn, and Maria immediately felt a sense of camaraderie. For the first time, she wasn't alone. She had people who trusted her, people who were willing to follow her guidance, and that made her feel stronger. She started by organizing the kitchen, arranging ingredients, and planning the menus for the upcoming events. It was challenging work, but Maria felt alive in a way she hadn't felt in months. As she began cooking, Cowboy observed quietly from the side, offering advice only when necessary. He didn't interfere, but his presence was comforting. Maria noticed that he seemed to understand the importance of letting her take control, of letting her lead and make decisions. That trust gave her confidence, and slowly her skills that had been hidden under months of doubt started to shine. The first event was small, a local gathering with about 20 people, but Maria poured her heart into every dish. She used fresh vegetables from the ranch, herbs she had picked herself, and techniques she had spent years mastering. When the guests tasted the food, their faces lit up with delight. They complimented her flavors, asked about recipes, and even requested seconds. Maria felt a joy she hadn't experienced in years, a sense of purpose that filled her completely. Cowboy watched quietly, but Maria could see the small smile on his face. It wasn't a smile of pride or ownership. It was a smile that said, "You did this. This is yours." That simple recognition meant more than any job offer, any certificate, or any salary could. Maria realized that she had been searching for approval for so long, but what she needed was someone who saw her heart in her work, someone who believed in her talent without reservation. As days turned into weeks, Maria became more comfortable in her role. She experimented with new recipes, learned to manage her time efficiently, and started creating menus that were both practical and creative. The events at the ranch began to draw more people, and words spread about the delicious food. Maria's confidence grew with every success, and she noticed that the weight of doubt that had haunted her for so long was finally lifting. She also learned more about Cowboy, the quiet man who had given her this chance. He was patient, humble, and observant, never demanding recognition for himself. He encouraged her to take risks, to explore new ideas, and to trust her instincts. Maria realized that his offer wasn't just about giving her a job. It was about giving her the freedom to grow, to explore her potential, and to believe in herself again. One evening, after a long day of preparing for a larger event, Maria sat on the porch of the ranch, looking out at the fields as the sun set. She felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The path that had seemed so uncertain just weeks ago now felt open and full of possibility. She reflected on her journey, the rejections, the doubts, the lonely nights, and realized that every struggle had led her to this moment. Without those challenges, she might not have appreciated this opportunity or recognized the value of someone believing in her. Cowboy joined her quietly, sitting down without a word. They watched the sunset together in silence, the warm light casting long shadows across the fields. Maria felt a deep gratitude for him, not just for the opportunity he had given her, but for the way he had trusted her, respected her, and allowed her to shine. She realized that sometimes life doesn't give you what you want immediately. Sometimes it takes patience, courage, and the right person to recognize your worth before everything falls into place. The following weeks were filled with hard work, laughter, and small victories. Maria learned to balance the demands of the kitchen with her own creative ideas, discovering a rhythm that made her feel alive. She taught the helpers new techniques, shared her knowledge, and felt the joy of seeing others succeed because of her guidance. The ranch became more than just a workplace. It became a place where she belonged, where her efforts mattered, and where her dreams could finally take root. For the first time in a long while, Maria could imagine a future where her talent was not just recognized but celebrated. She thought about the people who had doubted her, the times she had felt invisible, and the endless nights of worry. And she realized that those struggles, as painful as they had been, had prepared her for this moment. They had made her stronger, more resilient, and ready to embrace the opportunity when it finally came. Maria had come a long way from the small apartment where she had whispered to herself, "No one wants to hire me as a cook." Now, she stood in a place where her skills mattered, her creativity was valued, and her passion could flourish. She knew that challenges would still come, that not every event would go perfectly, and that she would still have moments of doubt. But for the first time, she felt equipped to handle them, supported by someone who believed in her, and by the confidence she had rediscovered within herself. As she prepared for the next big event at the ranch, Maria took a deep breath and smiled. She was ready. She had been ready all along. She just needed the right person to see it. And now, finally, someone had. Maria woke up early that morning with the soft light of dawn streaming through the windows of the small room she had been given at the ranch. The air smelled of fresh hay, warm earth, and dew-covered grass. For the first time in months, she felt a sense of excitement instead of worry. Today wasn't just another day, it was another chance to create, to lead, and to grow. She had come so far from the tiny apartment where she had whispered, "No one wants to hire me as a cook." Now she had a purpose, a team, and the freedom to explore her passion fully. After a quick breakfast, Maria went into the barn kitchen. It had been transformed into a well-organized, functional space, perfect for preparing large meals. The morning light filtered through the windows, highlighting the counters, cutting boards, and shelves neatly arranged with jars of spices, herbs, and other ingredients. It was a world of possibilities, a canvas on which she could paint her flavors. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity she had been given, and she vowed to make the most of it. Her helpers were already arriving, bringing baskets of fresh produce from the fields. Maria greeted them warmly, appreciating the teamwork that made the kitchen run smoothly. Some of them had never worked in a professional kitchen before, and she took the time to teach them, showing patience and encouragement. She realized that part of her role wasn't just cooking, it was guiding others, sharing her knowledge, and creating an environment where everyone felt valued. Cowboy arrived shortly after, observing quietly as Maria moved around the kitchen with confidence. He didn't interfere, but his presence was comforting. Maria felt supported, knowing that he trusted her abilities. She had learned that this trust was one of the most important gifts someone could give, not just in cooking, but in life. It allowed her to take risks, experiment with new ideas, and push herself beyond what she had thought possible. The day's task was preparing for a seasonal event that would bring together the local community. There would be families, children, and visitors from nearby towns, all expecting delicious meals that celebrated the flavors of the region. Maria had spent the past week planning the menu, selecting ingredients, and organizing the kitchen to handle the demands of a large crowd. She felt a mix of excitement and responsibility, knowing that this was her chance to truly make her mark. She began by preparing appetizers, carefully selecting herbs and spices to enhance the natural flavors of the fresh vegetables. She instructed her helpers on proper techniques, emphasizing the importance of attention to detail. Every dish mattered, not just for taste, but for the experience of the guests. Maria believed that food was more than sustenance. It was a way to bring people together, to create memories, and to share joy. As she worked, she reflected on how far she had come. She remembered the long nights of doubt, the countless rejections, and the moments of fear that had once seemed unbearable. And now she was here, leading a kitchen, making decisions, and seeing her vision come to life. The contrast between her past struggles and her present success filled her with a sense of accomplishment and pride. She realized that every challenge had prepared her for this moment, shaping her into the person she had become. By mid-morning, the kitchen was humming with activity. The helpers moved efficiently under Maria's guidance, chopping, stirring, and plating with care. The aroma of freshly baked bread, roasted vegetables, and simmering sauces filled the barn, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. Visitors began to arrive, curious about the event and the food they had heard so much about. Maria felt a thrill of anticipation, knowing that soon they would taste the meals she had poured her heart into. When the first dishes were served, the reaction was immediate. Guests smiled, complimented the flavors, and asked questions about the ingredients and preparation. Maria felt a deep satisfaction, knowing that her work was appreciated. It wasn't just about praise, it was about connection. She realized that through her cooking, she was touching people's lives, creating moments of happiness and comfort. For the first time, she felt that her dreams were not just fantasies. but tangible realities. As the event progressed, Maria experimented with new ideas she had been developing. She added small twists to traditional recipes, combining flavors in ways that surprised and delighted the guests. The positive reactions encouraged her to continue innovating, to trust her instincts, and to believe in her creativity. She felt a freedom she had never experienced in her previous jobs, where strict rules and limited resources had often stifled her imagination. Throughout the day, Cowboy observed from a distance, always supportive but never intrusive. Maria appreciated his presence, not because she needed validation, but because he had shown her the value of trust and belief. He had given her an opportunity when no one else would, and that had allowed her to grow in ways she hadn't thought possible. She realized that sometimes success wasn't just about talent, it was about being given the chance to shine. By evening, the event was a complete success. Guests lingered, chatting, laughing, and savoring the last bites of their meals. Maria felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her efforts had made a difference. She looked around the kitchen at her helpers, tired but happy, and felt a sense of pride in their accomplishments as well. Together, they had created something special, and that teamwork had strengthened her confidence even more. After the event, Maria took a moment to step outside and breathe in the cool evening air. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the fields and barns. She felt a quiet contentment, a sense that she was exactly where she was meant to be. For so long she had doubted herself, feeling lost and invisible. Now she understood that her journey had not been wasted. Every rejection, every struggle, every moment of fear had led her to this place where she could finally thrive. In the following weeks, Maria continued to grow in her role. She developed seasonal menus, experimented with new recipes, and refined her techniques. She learned to balance creativity with efficiency, ensuring that every dish met her high standards while still being practical for large events. Her confidence soared as she realized that she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. The ranch became more than just a workplace. It became a home, a place where Maria felt valued, respected, and inspired. She enjoyed the rhythm of life there. Early mornings in the kitchen, quiet moments in the fields, and evenings filled with laughter and stories around the table. She discovered the joy of mentorship, teaching her helpers not just how to cook, but how to care about the food they prepared. The sense of community and shared purpose made her feel a connection she had never experienced before. Maria also began to notice changes in herself. She felt stronger, more resilient, and more confident in her abilities. She no longer feared failure because she had learned that mistakes were opportunities to grow. She embraced challenges with a positive attitude, knowing that each one brought her closer to becoming the cook she had always dreamed of being. Her passion for food had been reignited, stronger than ever, and it fueled every decision she made in the kitchen. One afternoon, as Maria walked through the fields with Cowboy, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She remembered the lonely nights in her small apartment, the constant rejections, and the feeling of hopelessness that had once consumed her. And now, she realized that those experiences had shaped her, prepared her, and strengthened her for this moment. She had discovered her true potential, not through luck, but through perseverance, dedication, and the willingness to embrace an unexpected opportunity. Cowboy turned to her and said quietly, "You've done well. I knew you had it in you." Maria smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. It wasn't just his words. It was the recognition, the understanding, and the trust that mattered most. She realized that sometimes all it takes is one person to see your value to help you believe in yourself. As the sun set over the ranch, Maria felt a sense of peace and accomplishment. She had transformed from a cook struggling to find her place in the world into a leader, a creator, and an inspiration to those around her. Her journey was far from over, but she now faced a future with confidence, knowing that she had the skills, the passion, and the support to succeed. For the first time in her life, Maria truly believed in herself. She had learned that success wasn't just about talent, it was about opportunity, perseverance, and the courage to take a chance when it appeared. And most importantly, she had discovered that her love for cooking was more than a skill. It was a gift, one that could bring joy, connection, and meaning to everyone she shared it with. Maria smiled as she walked back to the kitchen, ready to prepare for the next event. She knew that challenges would continue to come, but she felt equipped to face them. She had found her place, her purpose, and her passion, and nothing could take that away from her. The journey that had once seemed impossible was now her reality, and she was determined to make the most of it, every single day. The morning sun rose over the ranch, casting warm, golden light across the fields and barns. Maria stood on the porch of the main building, looking out at the wide-open space that had become her home. She breathed in deeply, feeling the fresh air fill her lungs and a sense of peace settle in her heart. For months, this ranch had been her refuge, her classroom, and her stage. It had been where her dreams, long buried under disappointment and doubt, had finally begun to flourish. She remembered the days when she had whispered to herself in her tiny apartment, "No one wants to hire me as a cook." The weight of loneliness, rejection, and fear had pressed down on her like a heavy stone. Back then, even her passion for cooking sometimes felt like a burden rather than a joy. She had been exhausted, frustrated, and unsure if her dreams would ever be possible. Every failed interview, every polite rejection, and every "we'll keep your resume on file" had chipped away at her confidence. She had felt invisible, like her talent didn't matter. And yet, here she was now, standing in a place where her work mattered more than she could have imagined. The journey that had seemed so impossible had led her to something she hadn't dared to hope for. She had discovered that life doesn't always give you opportunities when or where you expect them. Sometimes it waits until the right person notices your potential, the right place appears, and you are ready to embrace it. Her thoughts wandered to Cowboy, the quiet, patient man who had given her that chance. He hadn't handed her success on a silver platter. He had simply opened a door, giving her the freedom to step through it on her own terms. That trust had changed everything. He had watched her grow, supported her quietly, and let her shine. He had seen her heart and her work when no one else had, and for that she felt a deep gratitude. As she walked toward the kitchen, Maria thought about the many small victories that had brought her to this moment. The first time guests at the ranch complimented her food, the night she stayed late to perfect a new recipe, the smiles on the faces of her helpers as they learned from her guidance. All of these moments had strengthened her confidence and reminded her why she loved cooking in the first place. Every challenge she had faced in the past now seemed like preparation for this life. Inside the kitchen, her helpers were already bustling about, chopping vegetables, stirring sauces, and arranging ingredients. Maria smiled, feeling a sense of pride. This team had become more than just co-workers. They were part of her journey, learning alongside her, trusting her direction, and sharing in the joy of creating something meaningful. She had discovered that leadership wasn't about commanding or controlling. It was about inspiring, guiding, and nurturing the talents of others. Today, they were preparing for a larger event than usual, a seasonal festival that would bring together families, friends, and visitors from nearby towns. Maria had spent weeks planning the menu, sourcing ingredients, and organizing the kitchen. She wanted this event to be special, to reflect the love, care, and creativity she put into every dish. It was more than a job now. It was her passion in motion, a tangible expression of everything she had worked for. As the event began, Maria moved confidently through the kitchen, directing her team with ease. The air was filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread, roasted vegetables, and simmering sauces. Every dish she touched was prepared with intention, each plate carefully arranged to delight both the eyes and the taste buds. The guests began to arrive, their laughter and excitement filling the air, and Maria felt a familiar thrill, the joy of connecting with people through food. When the first plates were served, the reactions were immediate. Guests smiled, complimented the flavors, and asked about the recipes. Maria's heart swelled with pride. For the first time, she truly understood the power of her work. It wasn't just about creating meals. It was about creating memories, sharing happiness, and bringing people together. She had found a purpose that made all the struggles of her past worth it. Throughout the day, Maria experimented with new ideas she had been developing. She tried unique combinations of herbs, introduced fresh flavors, and adapted traditional recipes in ways that surprised and delighted her guests. The positive feedback encouraged her to continue pushing boundaries, to trust her instincts, and to explore the full range of her creativity. She realized that her earlier fears had held her back, but now she had the freedom to grow, innovate, and succeed on her own terms. As the sun began to set over the fields, Maria took a moment to step outside. The golden light bathed the ranch in a warm glow, and she felt a deep sense of contentment. She reflected on how far she had come, from the small, lonely apartment to a place where her talent was recognized and appreciated. The journey had been long, filled with challenges and moments of doubt, but it had led her to something far greater than she had imagined. She also thought about the lessons she had learned along the way. She had discovered that talent alone wasn't enough. Perseverance, patience, and the willingness to embrace opportunity were just as important. She had learned that failure wasn't the end, but a stepping stone toward growth. And most importantly, she had learned that sometimes life gives you a chance when you least expect it, and it's up to you to recognize it and seize it. Cowboy joined her quietly on the porch, his presence comforting as always. They watched the sunset together, the colors of the sky reflecting the warmth and beauty of the day. Maria felt a deep sense of gratitude for him, not just for the opportunity he had given her, but for the way he had believed in her when she had struggled to believe in herself. His quiet support had made all the difference, showing her the power of trust and encouragement. "You've grown so much," he said quietly. Maria turned to him, smiling. "I feel like I finally understand what it means to love what I do," she replied. "Not just to cook, but to create, to teach, to share, and to grow." Cowboy nodded, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was comfortable, filled with understanding and mutual respect. As the days turned into weeks, Maria continued to thrive at the ranch. She developed new menus, experimented with seasonal ingredients, and refined her techniques. Her confidence grew with every success, and she began to see the impact of her work not just on the guests, but on her team as well. The helpers she trained became more skilled, more confident, and more passionate about their work. She realized that success wasn't just about personal achievement. It was about inspiring and uplifting others along the way. Maria also began to think about the future. She had found a place where her talent was recognized and appreciated, but she knew there was still more to explore. She dreamed of hosting larger events, teaching cooking classes, and sharing her passion with even more people. The challenges she had faced in the past no longer felt like obstacles. They were reminders of her resilience and determination. Every rejection, every moment of doubt had led her to this life, and she was ready to embrace it fully. One evening, after another successful event, Maria sat alone for a moment, reflecting on her journey. She thought about the long nights of worry, the countless interviews, and the moments of despair that had once consumed her. And she realized that without those experiences, she might never have appreciated the value of opportunity, trust, and perseverance. She had learned that success wasn't something handed to you. It was something you built with courage, patience, and the guidance of those who believed in you. Maria smiled as she looked out over the fields, the sunset casting a warm glow over the ranch. She felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known, a quiet joy that came from knowing she was exactly where she was meant to be. The journey that had begun with whispered doubts and endless rejections had led her to a life of purpose, passion, and connection. She had discovered her true potential, not through luck, but through determination, trust, and the courage to embrace an unexpected opportunity. As she prepared for the next day's events, Maria felt a deep sense of readiness. She knew that challenges would continue to come, but she was no longer afraid. She had the skills, the experience, and the support to face whatever lay ahead. And most importantly, she had rediscovered the love for cooking that had first inspired her as a child. The joy of creating something beautiful, meaningful, and shared with others. In that moment, Maria understood the true meaning of her journey. It wasn't just about finding a job or proving her talent. It was about discovering her worth, embracing her potential, and finding the courage to step into the opportunities that life offered.